Right, I just thought I'd show I'm adding a detector, a third detector rail. So I've got two in my main station, I'm going to put one on the other station. Right, so I'm going to be putting it round about here on the ECOS. I'll have to rechange this and make a bigger plan because it's a bit scrunched up there. But I'm going to make the, a new board for this area. Yeah, so there's the station. Right, so I've lifted the track because it's Fleischmann track, pre-ballasted, dead easy to get up. I lifted the track, took out the fish plate. I'm going to put a plastic insulated one in its place. Quick way around it is you can just Dremel through the rail to save you lifting the track up. But because it's Fleischmann track and it lasts many years, I don't want to damage the rails on it, so I'm going to put a plastic rail joiner on. So I'll put a plastic rail joiner at that end, and each entrance and exit to the station, north and southbound or wherever, I'm going to take one off and put another plastic rail joiner at that end. So one rail is completely isolated, and then you solder a wire onto that rail and feed it back to, well, it will be port number 3 on the ECOS detector, and then it can be automated in that section of track going in and out the station eventually. So that's my plan. What you've got to do when you're putting automated feedbacks in is you've got to start with either the left or right hand rail, and then you've got to use the same rail on the rest of the inputs on the detector unit. So it's either, you know, negative or positive. So you've got to bear that in mind, and you can't have halfway through swap around and put it. You've got to remember which way you're going to connect, which rail it's going to go on from where you started off on your first detector. Yeah, so anyway, make sure you get all the pins up. Mine are screws, so you've got to make sure you definitely take the screws out, otherwise you warp the track rails if you stress it too much. I use a lot of flexible track in straight sections. Reason being, it's less joins on the track, which means less electrical problems. The less joints you've got. So that's one of my golden rules of building this particular layout. Wherever I can get away with it, chucking a long piece of flexi track at 400mm. Right, so I've mentioned these in the past as well, these Brower lights. Good thing is if you're doing stuff like this, you can just pull them out. Pull them out, their quick sockets, that's on. Just pull them out, put them aside. Great for doing maintenance on your layout. There's one there. Pull that out. Right, there we go. Got that piece out. I mean, idealistically, putting these detectors in, you do this when you're building a layout. So it makes it a lot easier once it's all tracked in and tested. Before you put any scenics in, you put all your detector units in and all the rest of it. But I didn't know anything about automation or detector units, blocks, anything like that. I didn't have a clue when I first started this layout, so that's why I'm adding these in now, which is a bit of a pain, but you know, it's got to be done. It's either that or scrap it and build a new layout, put it in again. But luckily enough, the Fleischmann track is very easy to lift and adjust. As you can see, it just lifts off. Now I've got the track up, there's a plastic rail joiner. I've took that piece out. I'm going to solder a piece of wire on the underside before I put it back in again, drill a hole. It makes connecting the wire up a lot easier. Yeah, so there's my solderer, it's ready for doing. I'm going to use one of these to help stabilise the wire. Let's put a decent drill in. No problems, that's fine. Enough space there. Yeah, so there we are, fed the wire through. Oh, actually it's gone through a field. It's a wrong hole. I've come out of a bush in the field, from a previous lamp fitting or something. Oh dear. This time will come out the right hole. For some reason I've had a hole there and I've never filled it. Just had some bushes over it, and the hole it should have come out was there. Yeah, so drag that through. And let's connect it up to the little jaws and solder it on. Right, so I'm ready to solder on. Always worth having decent tools, you know, like wire strippers. These are a good make. NWS. Absolutely costing a lot of money, but it just makes life a lot easier when you're stripping cables, etc. to have, or anything, to have decent tools. Beautiful, just got it off perfect, no messing around. And I'll just pre-solder that, tin it up on both ends, and got the soldering iron ready. Get some solder. It's always a good idea, whatever you're soldering, to scratch that surface or clean it up with some alcohol or whatever, just to give it some something to key onto the solder. It's always a good idea. In fact, I could probably bring it through on the side there. Get the wire on the side. Yeah, that's it. It's got a nice bit of something to key onto. You can actually buy these tools from Maplin for doing soldering and prepping soldering surfaces, etc. All that sort of stuff. Yeah, so I've got some solder. Just going to tin the end of that up. There you go. That's that end, and the track. Probably do that now. Just making sure you got the right end. I'll just pre-solder that. Put a bit of solder on the side, and then grab the wire, which I've tinned. Anyway, I've soldered it on the side. My soldering isn't the best, but it does. It's done okay. Now what you can do, you can trim the plastic fish plates a little bit so they fit into the centre of that little notch. Little notch on there, see? You can trim them, which I have done, and then that just slots in. Sorry, excuse my filming. That just slots in, and that's ready to be installed now on the layout. But regarding soldering, there's a chap on YouTube which I'll show you his channel now, and I've learnt a lot off him. He's an absolutely fantastic bloke. Yeah, if anyone wants any help on soldering, this guy called Chambers123, his name is John. He's an absolutely fantastic bloke. I mean, he knows, I mean, he's a masterclass at electronics, soldering and all that sort of stuff, and he's done a couple of how-to vids on soldering and doing all sorts of modifications. And he has an analog layout, but his knowledge in soldering and his particular area of model railways and every type of train you can think of, it is amazing. Absolutely fantastic bloke. So yeah, thought I'd just plug that channel because it's well worth watching if you want to find out anything about soldering. So all I'm doing at this end is just putting a plastic rail joiner in, and that's it. No other cables, it's just one wire in that section of rail that's isolated, and that's it. Yeah, another tip when you're building and laying flexible track is make sure you have a decent, expansion gap at the end, at each end. Otherwise, when the summer comes, if you lay it in the winter, you're gonna have warped track. Right, everything's in, track's in. Make sure when you take track out, you try and use the old holes so it'll just realign itself. Make sure all the pins are down. All the track screws are down, so you don't want a train running into a track screw that's half up. So there we go. Anyway, I've trimmed the wire and I put it into, just screw it into port number 3. It should be a green wire really, but it's not a big deal. It's in there, and that's ready to just make sure that's tight. And then that's it. It's all set up. Just log it on the ECOS now. My wiring is a bit loose, but I like it that way because when I want to make a modification, I can just untangle it a bit. I don't have it all tied up perfectly. I have it, as you can see, there's a lot of boxes underneath. and I can just untangle that and if I want to change stuff around. It's not mega messy, but I have a lot of stuff threading through the actual framework as well on holes stuff, but yeah, that's it. Right, I'm just going to do a test run through it in a minute. I'm just going to park this freight train up. I'm going to bring the camera train through the station. So yeah, that section is isolated over there. That is feedback section number 3. So that wire just it feeds that section with power from the detector, and the detector picks up any wagons or locomotives that's in that area now. So let's try it out. So I've got a train going around now. You can see me in the background. I've got a train with a camera looking backwards. This is a camera loco looking backwards at the train going around. I just thought I'd try it in that mode to see what it looks like. And it's just working its way around that station it's going to pull into next time. So it's on the outer main line, it's going to go onto the inner main line, which is the 3rd inner main line in a minute. So on this train coming in to the test station now, on the feedback 3, I've only got one detector selected for it, so I don't even know whether it's going to stop or not. Well, there it is, it's just come out of the tunnel. Swapping over lanes into the 3rd inner lane. Right, so I'll go over to the track plans. Train's coming around now. Let's see whether it stops. It comes into the station area. Hopefully this area should turn red around here. Yep. It's worked. The train has stopped, but I have not set it up on the ECOS track plans as being a feedback module. So what you do then, go into Spanner and basically you select feedback track there, and that will be module ECOS detector port 3. As soon as I press a tick, there you go, that part has now gone red where the train's entered. So it all works. So that means I could shuttle a shuttle train from platform, from detector 1. Stopover point would be detector 3, that station over there. I'm back to detector number 2, which is back into the main station, and that is a very basic automation just using the ECOS and a detector module.